Hi there, this is Eshu. I'm the abbot here at Zenwest Buddhist Society. This Living Zen-podcast is just one of the many resources we've created at Zenwest to make Zen practice and training more available and accessible to people all over the world. Instructional videos, printable resources, and much, much more are also available on our website at www.zenwest.ca. If you're a regular listener, I'd love to hear from you. So please drop me an email at office@zenwest.ca and let me know who you are, how you got started, and what brought you to Zen. Everything we make available in person and online at Zenwest is only possible because of the support of our members and associates, people like you. If the efforts of our community are making a difference in your life, I'd like to invite you to show your support and take part in making it happen by becoming an associate or member of the Zenwest Sangha. You can do this by clicking the Join Us tab on our website at www.zenwest.ca. Thank you for your support, and thanks for listening. Yesterday, a few of us went for a hike. We did our 5th annual East Souk Park Coast Trail Silent Hike. It's the longest title of any annual event, I think, that we've done. And it's always a beautiful, beautiful hike, challenging, but wonderful. And as some of you may have noticed, I think I've expressed influence over the activities when we hike, because hiking is something that I really enjoy. I live out here, so I have a lot of opportunities to hike. One of the things that came up for me, or saw into a little bit yesterday, was we often hear this saying about destinations and journeys. And so I think that we hear about not making our experience of a trip or an experience of a journey based on our arrival at the destination, and that we should experience the journey. I think it's particularly important when we take into consideration just the span of a human life. We always seem like we're in a hurry to get somewhere, but if we just take a moment and think where it is we're getting to, maybe we shouldn't be in such a hurry. And I think for me, for many years, when I thought about this piece of advice, or this piece of the part of this thing that talks about enjoying the journey, for me, I think a lot of the time it meant sort of enjoying looking around, enjoying the scenery, and stop and take some time to smell the roses and all that kind of thing. I think that's a good thing to do. It's part of it for sure. But as I was hiking yesterday, I realized that there's another part about not worrying about the destination and enjoying the journey that really rose up. And it's something that I experience often, particularly in hiking, but also in Zen and in many other things as well. Even this morning I was mopping the floors and it came up. And this is something that I talk about often in our sitting practice, is this experience of immersion in the activity. one of the things that I think is difficult when we come to practice is to embrace and accept and allow the fluctuation or the back and forth, the arising and dissolving of our consciousness and of the activity of this cosmos. I think that most of us, when we come to practice, we're lopsided in some way. We're often, when we're young, when we're children, we're very comfortable and at ease with an experience of immersive dissolution. When we're children and we're playing with toys, it's very easy for kids to lose track of time. It's very easy when we're children to get involved in a game with other children and become kind of unaware of our surroundings, become unaware of maybe hazards that are arising in our surroundings because we're just so immersed in our game. And when we're children, I think, or when we're teenagers, when we start to become teenagers, there's this sort of borderlands that's really difficult because more and more our developing mind, our developing consciousness, our developing personality, as well as the expectations and responsibilities of our culture and our society and our family are pulling us away from that more and more. We enjoy the supervision and protection of parents and even of society as a whole as we're children. People maybe they don't so much as they used to, but I think they still do. We look out for each other's children. It's getting harder to do it, but I think that in the end there's still a very strong sense of wanting to help, wanting to protect, wanting to look out for children. And then as we become teenagers, there's less and less of that. Physically, we start to become more and more adult-like. And so we have to start, and we're expected to, and it's pushed upon us, that we have to start paying attention. We have to start pulling ourselves out of the immersion and paying attention. And we're rewarded the more and more we do that, the better and better we do that. The more and more clearly we're able to establish our personality, the more and more we're able to establish our part in a bigger unit, whether that's a family or whether that's a work environment or whether that's a school or whether that's a society at large. And there's reward. And so as we grow up more and more into our adult life, we spend more and more time in the world of differentiation, in the world of standing apart from and looking at things and understanding who I am and understanding what they are and what that is and how this works. And maybe if we're lucky, we keep one place in our lives where we allow ourselves to be immersed. And for some people that's meditation. For some people that's making music. For some people that's the work that they do, whether that's building something or cleaning or programming or whatever. And you'll always have this same experience where you're completely dissolved into the activity. And what's going on around you, I can't even say what's going on around you because it's as if it's all consumed by this present activity. And when we first come to Zazen, a lot of the time it's because we've lost this thread. We've lost this place of immersion. And we end up having a life that's very clear, very crisp. But there's a sense that we've lost our home. And I talk about this, and I use this phrase a lot, that when we practice Zazen, when we practice this simple activity of just coming here and allowing ourselves to sort of fall into the activity of just sitting up and breathing, to completely melt into it. And again, just like in the teenage years when we are learning to differentiate, I think that there's a lot of struggle at the point where we're learning or relearning how to dissolve. And just like in the beginning, I think as teenagers, there's parts of us that really very badly want it always to be dissolved. We always want to be immersed. We always want to be engaged in the game. We always want to be in that space of with-itness. And then there's another side of us that wants it to always be clear and always be defined and always be differentiated. And I think as we get to be adults, it's no less challenging, it's no less difficult. And so in our early teenage years, when we start to clarify, it can become a real push or a real goal to become really crisp and really clear and the best of the best. And compared to all other things, we are special. Likewise, when we come to practice, that sensation of complete dissolution can become something that we idealize and pursue and want that to be everything that we do. And I think that what's important and what I wanted to talk about was that these two activities need one another. These two activities are constantly cycling back and forth with each other. And they're both aspects of our character. They're both aspects of the manifestation of this cosmos. And they're both needed, important. And as we practice, whether we're practicing music or whether we're practicing art or whether we're practicing hiking or whether we're practicing meditation, one of the real pinch points or challenge points that we have is just preferential attachment, the attachment to one or the other. As it's like there's just like our breath, there's these cycles. As we inhale, we feel the oxygen come into our body. We feel it being pumped through our heart and into our veins, and there's a feeling of strength, and there's a feeling of healthiness, and there's a feeling of fullness. But even as we do that, as we inhale and we get to the top of our breath, there comes a point where actually it starts to curve, and we start to feel overfull, and we start to feel that there's no more that can be pushed in. And if you just keep trying to inhale at that point, you can't do it. There's no other way for you to go but to stop and to exhale, to allow that breath to go, to allow it to dissolve into the rest of the atmosphere. Likewise, when we get to the bottom of the breath, the exhalation, there can feel a deep settling, deep dissolution, deep just vacuousness, spaciousness, I guess. But if we keep exhaling, we come to a point where there's actually kind of a spark. It's almost like a charge that says, I can't keep exhaling. We need air. We need to breathe. The action has to turn. And we start the inhalation again. And in our breath, when we're not thinking about it too much, in our breath, there's not a clinging so much. As we're breathing in, I think very rarely do we go, gosh, I just want to keep breathing in. I don't want to breathe out. Let me breathe in more. I don't think we do that. And likewise on the out breath, I don't think we go, oh yeah, that feels good. Just keep breathing out. More out. Oh, don't want to breathe in. I don't think we do it. But I think that when it comes to the experiences that we have of immersion, when something's funny, when something's enjoyable, when we have that moment of clarity in even a simple task like doing dishes or cleaning the floor or something like this, we have this tendency to try to hang on to it after it's sort of started to turn. And it's sort of forced out of our hands sometimes. It's so wonderful. And likewise, when we're maybe in a relationship with another person is a great way to look at it. And we start talking with them or having a different point of view with them. There comes a point sometimes where a little bit of dissolution, just melting and unifying with that person would be tremendously beneficial, unifying, dissolving. But we like our idea, we like our perspective, and we hang on to it maybe a little bit more than is useful or is beneficial. But in the end, in both cases, I guess I can ask you, can you hold on to that? You know, when you're really immersed in something and you can feel it starting to, the self, the separation, the differentiation, when you feel it starting to arise, when we're sitting, as a great example, when we're sitting, just everything is so deeply quiet. The mind is completely settled. And then we think, I wonder how long I've been sitting. And then we think, oh, no, don't worry about that. Just keep with this wonderful, quiet. Yeah, but there's other things. Shh. Just keep with. How often does it work for us to try to hang on to that experience of unification? In fact, once we perceive that there's something other than that experience of unification, the turn has already started. And no matter how much we try to kind of force ourselves back in, it's almost like the more we acknowledge that that separation is happening, the more certain it is that things, thoughts and differentiation begin to manifest. Likewise, when we hit our stride, when there's certain activities that we can do that are just so, listening to a beautiful piece of music or chanting, I find, is very much like this, or even sitting. There's such powerful invitations to the experience of dissolution that I find that sometimes I want to think about something when I sit down, and I talk about like the experience of Teflon the mind of Teflon, where after a few days of sesshin, I find I can't even hold a thought. Like I can't think about something because I slip in so easily. The thought can't be held. It falls away. So we spend a huge amount of our time trying to hang on to one experience or another, trying to pursue one experience or another. And I guess I could say the pursuit of it is the same when we sit down and we say, okay, and now I need to dissolve. How effective is that? The more you're sitting there saying, oh, I'm really agitated and I really need to, I'm just going to dissolve now. Okay, let's dissolve. It doesn't work so well, at least not for me. And I can't even really talk about being completely dissolved and wanting to arise. Actually, I guess I can, because I think it is difficult when we realize that things are going on. You can think of two examples. One was I was at Mount Baldy, which is just outside of Los Angeles, and there was an earthquake in the Zendo. An earthquake in Los Angeles. And I don't know how long it lasted, 10, 15 seconds, something like that. And nobody moved. Nobody even moved. When the bell rings, when we're sitting, and we're kind of immersed in our meditation, dissolved into the activity of the cosmos. The bell rings and the clappers sound. It's difficult. We have to kind of force ourselves to reappear and be reborn and bow and stand up. And even then, I find that we continue to stay kind of soft around the edges as we move into walking meditation. And we can sometimes dissolve back into our walking meditation. So what's all this talking about? Just this activity arising and dissolving, and it takes place. And our experience of that is so often marked by our desires, by our preferences, and by our choices. And we expend a huge amount of energy pursuing what it is that we want in any particular moment. And often it's the opposite of what we're experiencing in that moment. So when we're sitting, sometimes towards the end of a sit, we're like, oh my God, all I want to do is walk, walk, walk. Can we not walk? Can we not walk? The bell rings, the clapper sound, we bow, and we start walking. And within a few minutes of walking, we're saying, oh, I just want to sit. I just want to get back to the cushion. I want to sit. So we expend a huge amount of energy hanging on to the experience as it's breaking apart and pursuing an experience when we're in the midst of another sort of unfolding. So we're often just in this state of having something to do and trying to do it. And this is a huge source of difficulty and challenge as a human being. But the activity is unfolding naturally. It's unfolding naturally within us, and it's unfolding naturally in all things in this cosmos. So Linji talks about buji, having nothing to do. And one of the greatest developments I think that can happen in our practice is just the ability to be with the experience that is arising in this moment. When I used to go to sesshin, I was always, had an agenda going. These are the things I needed to work on. On day 2 is going to be like this, and day 3 I'm going to feel like this, and day 4 is when it turns, and all. I had a plan and an agenda and a schedule for everything, emotions and thoughts and interior work. And after years and years of doing sessions and finding that no matter how great my plan was, or no matter how experienced I was with having a session, one thing I knew for sure was that you can't plan a session. And so I started going to sessions and saying, well, let's see. And each and every sit, when I sit down, I say, let's see. I've had plenty of sits where I feel terrible going into the sit, completely scattered, physically in pain. And in the space of just one sit, a few breaths, the whole universe upends itself and is transformed. And if I spend my time pursuing something or trying to hang on to something, then the experience of that can be missed or limited, diminished.
Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.